Hello and welcome to Voices of Parenting podcast. I am so glad you're here. My name is Mussi Diskin. I am an advanced nurtured heart approach trainer. I am a parenting coach. I am also an inner wealth coach, which means that I help people rediscover and connect to the people that they truly were all along, but may have gotten forgotten along the way. So to find out more about me and what I offer, you can check out mussidiskin.com. I would love to connect and I would love to hear your feedback. Reach out to energizinghearts@gmail.com. Thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hello, welcome back. We're with Celeste Elsey again. It's part 2 here. Go back and listen to the first conversation. I want to jump right in kind of where we left off with my question about clarity. So we talked a little bit in the last recording about stand 1, refusal to be in that control mode. Stand 2, energizing every little bit of success. And then we talked a little bit about how you model clarity. You even mentioned that you, in that really tough situation, you have clear rules and you're resetting people. What I would love to hear you describe is how you walk that line of completely surrendering control and being willing to sort of receive or accept reality on reality's terms, and yet hold on to clarity. Definitely in the traditional model, those sound like they can't go together. Those two sound contradictory, to have this like not controlling, letting go of control, and like yet having that clarity. What is that? How do you do that?
Yeah. Well, if I'm being honest, it's a constant battle. And I always go back to that class. I can think of other situations I was in. I did a lot of work in alternative education and learned a ton from those kids, and it was tough. So I think the most important thing for me was developing the self-awareness to know when my frustration, my annoyance, my need for control was kicking in. And I got really good at that. Like now, today, I become very self-aware, and it takes practice. And me overreacting in the moment of struggle is not going to make anything better. And I've done it, believe me. In the classroom, I've done it. But with practice, it gets easier. And it's really about the energy of flow. And you can ask yourself, am I in depletion right now, or am I feeling resourced? And when I say resourced, I mean like able to manage myself and the students. And it goes back to the point in our first podcast, sometimes like we keep the vision of what we're after for our students, but the work getting there may not look like the way we'd like. It's not clear. The classroom may not feel clear to someone that walks in, but I'm going to reset to clarity. And it's funny because when I was still teaching every single morning, I did some breath work and I chose my intentions for the day. And there are so many wonderful intentions we can choose, but I couldn't help it. Every single day, my intentions that I chose were calm and clear. Every single day. So I had to reset to calm, because that's when I'm the best version of myself. And that's when I can use the 3 stands without causing escalation. And I had some really scary things happen in that classroom. And some things happened that were very unexpected. And I always have a big startle reflex. I don't know why, but I do. Probably from raising 3 boys. And so I would catch myself in that reaction and immediately reset to calm. And I think it's just like my personal vision. It was not the vision of how I wanted my kids to behave. It was my vision of what I was going to lead them to. And in between was very messy. But I'll tell you what, with that tough middle school class I got them doing work, not because I made them, because they finally realized, oh, I can be successful. And I can do work, and I can give effort, and I can make mistakes, and I can learn from my mistakes. There was so much, but the clear rules are huge for
Yeah,
clarity.
that's what I want
Gotta
to hear
have
about.
clear rules.
I want to hear about clear rules. How do you have clear rules when the kids don't follow a single one of them? Like, what is like? Let's talk about both sides. Like, do you have all the same rules you'd have in a different classroom? How do you communicate them? When do you communicate them? And do you just like reset all day? Like, how does that even work?
Yeah, people have asked me, how many times do you give a reset in one day? I said, I don't know, 300. They're like, what? Um, so I've had the experience of teaching, taking over classrooms mid-year a couple of times because there was that need. So they would put me in there. And so the first thing I would do would be to create clear rules. And oftentimes I would ask the students, what do you think our rules should be? And the funny thing that I learned is they always said the same things that I desired as rules. So I always encourage teachers, don't choose 25 rules. Like, yes, you would like to have 25 rules. So for me, I would choose 4 or 5. They were always the same. And whether I worked with kindergarten up to 12th grade, in general ed, special ed, or alternative ed. No calling out, no being out of your seat without permission, no inappropriate language, and no cell phones. And my students knew those were the rules, and I'd have them posted always. And, sometimes I'd be teaching and I'd say, Katerina, and I would just point to the rule that I needed her to follow. And then I'd say, oh my gosh, you stopped and put your cell phone away. And I saw you watching me point to that rule. Thank you. You just reset yourself. That's amazing self-control. So I think that you just teach the rules. You recognize big time for when rules are being followed. And the rules aren't posted just for the students, they're posted for us so that we can remember to give recognitions if any rules are being followed. Something else that I did about the same time as introducing and working to reinforce rule following was to choose qualities of the day. And I'd write them on the board. I'd say, you know what, today I'm looking for students that are being cooperative. And I'd write cooperative on the board. I'd say, what does cooperative mean? And they would tell me, and I would support that to get the correct definition. Then every time I saw cooperation, I'd point it out. And it wasn't about me finding students being cooperative. It was about them realizing and taking in, oh, I am being cooperative right now. And I had some tough calls with parents over the years where I had to share things that were not so great. And I've had parents burst into tears when I make a positive phone call home because they're afraid to answer the phone when the school's calling. And if I had to share tough info, I would always start with, you know what? I'm so glad that Sam's in my class. I've learned so much from him. He's putting forth great effort. He even solved a really tough math problem today. I'm so proud of him. And parent to parent, I got to tell you the truth about something that happened. But I want you to know that I don't need you to punishment. He's already had his consequence. He handled it and we're moving on. But you should know that this happened. And then I thank them for listening. I thank them for any feedback they give me and so on. Because parents whose kids have struggled through the school years are ready to fight. They're ready to fight the schools. They're ready to fight the teachers. So that took some work because unfortunately those parents had learned not to trust educators, which is very sad. So yeah, I think back to your original question, like I would choose how I wanted things to end up and I would do whatever it took to get there. And it was not pretty sometimes. Very tough moments.
I want to also I'm hoping the audience can feel it from you. But when you described in the first podcast how teaching is all about energy, the classroom's all about energy, the relationship's all about energy, you have an assertive energy. You have a confident energy. You walk in there with your intention and you're there. I'm here. Like when you told those kids, like, I'm going to be here till June, you meant that. Like there's a certain energy that the kids are feeling from us, that if we walk in with that clarity of like, these are the rules independent of your following them. Like these are the rules and they're up there and I'm resetting you like 300 times. It's the combination. That's what's so powerful. It's the three stands together because it's The fact that they
Yeah.
don't feel like I'm trying to control them. I'm not mad that they're not following the rules. I'm clear that they're not following the rules. I am giving them acknowledgement and recognition for when they follow it. I couldn't care less whether they do or don't. I'm just being clear. And I believe in them and I trust them and I'm here to teach and that's what we're doing and I know what we're doing and I walk in there confident. Like they can't, I become a solid rock that they can trust and lean on because they can't they can't get to me. They can't get me down. They can't. It's.
Yeah.
I don't know. How do you teach
Yeah,
that?
and it
How do
takes
we
a
give
while.
that, or how do we? How does a teacher own that? How does a teacher get there?
Well, I think that something that's so important to do is to create a space where the students feel safe. So I'm big on creating psychological safety in the classroom, and using the three stands is a big part of that. And when students feel like they belong, that they are important, they're valued, they're heard, they're seen, not just by me, but by their peers, that's what changes the classroom. Like they're in it together. And, when I showed up to that one middle school classroom to take over mid December, I had never witnessed the level of bullying that I saw going on in my life inside of four walls. It was shocking to me. And these kids were operating out of so much trauma that they'd experienced. So any teacher that walked in and saw their behaviors immediately would go to, oh, that's disrespect and defiance. Those are the two biggest complaints I hear from teachers, disrespect and defiance. And I encourage people to step back and reset themselves because we have to think about what's behind that. If students have experienced trauma, they create invisible walls of protection, and it looks like disrespect and defiance. I saw that a lot when I worked in an alternative ed high school. But you don't give up on those kids. You just keep giving them recognitions, and they may roll their eyes at you. They may tell you to get out of their face. But that's the fastest way for me to prove to them that I'm here for you, I'm committed, I care about you. And one trick that worked so well, especially with older kids and with younger kids too, when I think about it, is pulling them aside individually, either on their way into class or on their way out. Because kids respond very differently to recognitions many times in front of their peers than if you give it to them one-on-one. If I had a student's attention one-on-one, I worked really hard at being 100% there, as if there was nothing around us. And there's some kind of connection that happens when you do that. And I know that the kids can't help but feel it. If I'm feeling it, they're feeling it. And it is amazing. And if I'm working on academics with a student that typically likes to avoid work, misbehave, gain peer attention, if I can be that level of present with them and they begin to work, that presence informs my instruction more than anything else I could do, more than test results or anything, because it's almost like you can see how their brain is working. And so having that level of connection with individual students supports the behavior of the entire class. And sometimes there are kids that are hard to like. I just had one in my entire career, and that kid, my gosh, I loved my students, even the worst behaving ones, and that kid was so hard for me to like. And so I had to put big effort into appreciating him, even though he was so hard for me. But for most kids, if you just move past their behavior and get to who they are as a human being, like they feel that.
I think where we've struggled in the world is that we've had people who were committed to making a difference for these kids and not getting stuck on the defiance. But because of that, also didn't really have any backbone or resets or rules because they didn't want to get these kids in trouble. They wanted these kids to feel loved. They wanted these kids to feel like they belong. And kids don't respect that. Not the bad ones who already have walls up. They're not bad kids, but I mean the badly behaved, the ones that have learned to be badly behaved. They just see a sweet, wishy-washy, fluffy doormat that they can step all over when a teacher comes in with smiles and prizes and sweetness. And it's like, and what do you guys think? And what should we do? And oh, you want to have a party? Let's have a party. Let's dance. Oh, whatever you guys want. You guys are in charge, like that energy does not invite growth or trust. And I think this is the brilliant balance that you're delivering through your stories and your explanation, is that you're so fiercely devoted to not judging them and not shaming them and not defining them by their behavior and not, controlling them in the sense of you guys are bad and need to be controlled. And yet you're also not giving up on the fact that they have the potential to live up to whatever being a student means. You have those rules, you're resetting them, it's that back and forth together. It's that we're going to do this essay for 2 days. You're not nice. It's like nice can sometimes be mean. Sometimes that tough love is kinder and builds that respect of, this is actually an adult who cares about me. She cares enough to reset me. She cares enough to have rules, but she's not punishing me for them. Well, that doesn't make sense. She has rules and she's not punishing me for them. What's that about? And she's telling me when I'm following them, like, what's this? Like, you don't make sense, teacher. And that pushback that comes before the lean in of like, lady, you're supposed to punish us. So I'm going to be worse before I get better because I don't know what this is and I don't want to trust it so easy. I'm sure you've experienced that too.
Yeah, I've had kids say to me, aren't you going to do something about that? And I would just simply say, you need to reset. And I walk away. And they'd stand there like dumbfounded, like, what? And 9 times out of 10, they would come back to me and say, I'm sorry for what I said to you, but how come you didn't freak out? Most teachers would send me to the office. I said, I need you in class and I need your good behavior. And the fact that you're apologizing to me right now is golden. So thank you. That's so mature. That's so much self-control. Let's get back to work. And in those moments, and those moments happened in all of the settings where I worked, where kids were expecting me to flip out. And instead, I recognized them for whatever they did that was really great. And that's when I got their attention, even with students that I didn't know, that I'd randomly see around a campus. And I did have to fight through colleagues. I always joked and said, kids, piece of cake for me. Parents, love them. Piece of cake. Colleagues, probably the hardest thing for me because I did things differently. And I know that at one school where I worked, there was a joke where they would say, oh, we know what you do in your classroom, Elsey. You just ignore all the bad behavior and you tell the kids how great they are. And I'd say, really? Is that what you think? Why don't you come and watch me? In fact, at that one middle school where I taught the alternative class, it was so challenging. I had a PE teacher say something to me. Oh, because some of my kids made the honor roll at the big honor roll ceremony. And they worked their butts off to do that. And I was standing next to a teacher and I heard a student say to him, how'd those kids get on the honor roll? He said, oh, they're in that care class. And I was standing next to him. I said, excuse me, I'm the care class teacher. And I want you to know that they've earned those. And I'd love to invite you to my classroom. And I told my students that story to show them I'm fighting for you. I went out to a PE class in front of the entire class one time while they were doing exercises because the teacher wouldn't let my students have the accommodation of retaking a test or something. And I went out there, I said, can I speak to you while they're warming up? He said, sure. I said, my voice is loud, so I knew the kids heard me. I said, hey, I need my students to be able to retake that test. I will monitor them. Can you give me the test and we'll do it during lunch today? I might have been putting him on the spot a little bit, but I didn't care because I needed my students to retake that test.
All right, Celeste, I need to talk to you another time because I have to go bring my son to a doctor's appointment. So I'm like watching the time. I'm like, I want to hear more. I love you. I love this.
I could talk to you all day long.
Fantastic. And this is what we need. I think as much as everything you're saying, we nurtured hearters need each other because we're out up against a lot of, we're doing things differently. We are, and the balance is hard and it's tricky and we get depleted and we need, like, talking to you, Celeste, I'm like, yes, we can do this and we need to do this and we are doing this because I have you behind me, you know, like that's a powerful force to have each other behind us and to know where each other are out there. So yay
Yeah,
for
and we
that.
know it works, so stick with it. And it makes it better for us. It's not just for the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I will put all the information down at the bottom. I guess just like tell us really quick your website and for those who are not going to look at the bottom, and then we will say goodbye.
Yes, it's consortiumtraining.com. We offer trainings for educators in areas of emergency preparedness and school safety, and also strategies for school culture and climate. That's what I do. Nurtured heart, transforming student behavior, educator well-being, creating psychological safety in the classroom, and on and on. I'm going to put on the website that I want to start coaching brand new teachers
Yeah.
because I love that. So I thought, oh, I should make that a thing.
Yeah. And I think that that plays, okay, we can't talk, but that plays so much with the fear. The new teacher, the fear is the real thing because they don't have the experience to look back. You look back and experience and you go, I know this works. I remember that story. I remember that win. You have that inner wealth to pull from. They don't have that yet, you know? Okay.
Yeah.
Love you. Thank you for being here. Audience,
Thank you.
love
Love you
you too.
too. I appreciate
Talk
you.
to you next time.
Yes.
Hey, wait, don't go yet. Take a minute to find the beautiful quality that you have, that you appreciate about yourself.